All right, good morning, everybody. All righty. I'm going to open up my chat box. Good morning. Hope everybody is having a great morning this morning. Let me make sure that everybody can see me. I'm going to open up my chat box over here. Let's see if I can go to the webinar. All righty. Good morning. If everybody can hear me, just go ahead and give me the thumbs up that you can hear me, okay? I'm going to begin to let people in. Great. I was looking for an app that I downloaded on my tablet here, and I can't find it, but I'm going to find it in a second. So I'm going to give you all a few minutes to come on in, and we'll get started here in just a second, okay? Let's see if I can find this app. I may have to start it on my other side. How's everybody doing this morning? In the chat box, tell me how you're doing this morning. Let's get a little bit of excitement going on here. Today we're going to talk about something that I think that everybody has had on their minds, and I think that, Doc, I'm not eating that much. Why am I not losing weight? So we're going to be talking about calories, okay? So give me a second. I'm going to try to find this app. Woke up with a headache, but I'm good. All right. Let's see if we can handle that. Tired of working. Oh, great. Doing well. My 40th birthday is tomorrow. Happy birthday. I'm getting ready to celebrate my wife's birthday is this week. And so she'll be 40 as well. And you know me, I'm only 40, 45. So that's not a problem. All right. So good morning, everybody. Everybody's feeling well. Now, just tell me one other thing. Have you exercised this morning? Have you done your 30-minute walk this morning? If you haven't, it's okay, because I haven't done mine either. Today's been a slow start for me today. Yeah, me either. Anybody else? Nope. All right. Walking now. Very good. I love it. All righty. So we have a few people here. I'm going to wait just about another 2 minutes. So get your cup of coffee. I have 7 grams of fiber in here. You know why, right? I have 7 grams of fiber. I'm going to have another cup of coffee. Probably during this session, it's going to be another 7 grams. My goal today is to get how many grams? How many grams do I want to get in today? Let me see if anybody knows the answer. How many grams do I want to get in? I'm a male. If you've been here before, you know that answer, right? 40 grams. If you're a female, you want to get how many grams? 25. Exactly. All right. So by the end of this session, I'll have had my 14 grams, 15 grams of fiber. Now, throughout the day, I'm going to get my fiber. Now, fiber that I take in is extremely important because I've got to feed a certain population of microbes, bacteria. I've got to feed my microbiome. In my colon is a set of bacteria that I want to have healthy. And we're going to go why. Okay? So I got to give them 45 grams. That's what they normally eat. I'm going to tell you why it is that we don't get that, because we tend to substitute it with other things. And by the time we say, okay, fine, yeah, I'm not quite getting that because I've eaten some waffles, pancakes, and some orange juice, and I've eaten some for breakfast, and I've eaten some, I don't know, some Chick-fil-A sandwiches for lunch. By the time you eat that and you're full on that stuff, when do you have time to put it in your fiber? Well, you don't. And there's consequences to that we'll discuss. This is going to be sort of a fun webinar. So I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible, because the one problem that I have is talking too much. Yeah, me. Imagine that, talking too much. Even when I do patients when I do the CPET, cardiopulmonary exercise testing. One of the patients, who's a good friend of mine, she says, you talk too much, doc. I get it. I'm working on that. All right. All right. But to me, the I want you to be, I want you to have the power. All right. All right. All right. Somebody says, I need a 10-day meal plan. Please. All right. Let's give you that 10-day meal plan today. All right. So I'm going to tell you exactly what to eat because a lot of people just want to know, Doc, quit telling me all the science and everything. But to me, you got to know the why because I can give you that 10-day meal plan. You'll do it for 10 days. You may even do it for a month or 3 months, but you'll always drift back. So I want you to know the science about why it is that we have to stay on a certain type of diet because we're metabolically challenged. I'm still metabolically challenged. My weight is, this one is 170 pounds. I'm 17% body fat. We're going to see what yours is. And so that still makes me metabolically challenged. I still every now and then go in and out of atrial fibrillation, depending upon my level of seed oils in my body, right? So for the past 2, 3 years, I've been trying to get the seed oils and the refined carbohydrates out of my body. Why? Because I'm trying to preserve my microbiome. Why? Because those things actually produce my GLP-1. Why? GLP-1 is that hormone in our body found in our intestinal tract that you guys have been clamoring for at $500, $600, sometimes even $1,000 a month. Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro. But I'm going to teach you how to make your own. Why do I want GLP-1? Because you guys have seen the effects of GLP-1, haven't you? GLP-1 does two things, and it does two things well. It increases my satiety, means that I can eat a smaller amount and feel full. And it decreases my cravings. So the cravings for bread, when you got to have a hamburger, but you got to have the bread on it, or the cravings for mashed potatoes, macaroni and cheese, pastas, those things go away when your GLP-1 is active. And then we got some other factors that we put in there because we're going to eat a certain type of food in a certain pattern that's going to even augment my GLP-1 even more. The whole goal is to get to the point where my GLP-1 is steady throughout the day. And if it's steady throughout the day, I'm mirroring the effects that I'm getting from that drug that I take once a week in a shot. I don't do it, but a lot of people do. So, and I'll tell you a little bit about the drug, but for the most part, all we want is our own GLP-1 active. Okay, and the studies are pretty clear, and the studies are pretty definite about our GLP-1 levels are low. So we don't get full on a small amount of food unless you've had the surgery. But and the surgery has a lot to do with a lot of people being here. And you don't stop those cravings because our GLP-1 levels are low. So our goal is to get our GLP-1 levels back to normal and keep them normal every single day throughout the day. When we do that, we'll notice a significant change. We'll notice that we're beginning to lose fat. Because the problem, one of the main problems with the GLP-1s that you're getting in the form of shot is too much. And it's designed to be that way to give you some radical weight loss so that you can say, oh, I'm going to buy this drug every month. So it's a ploy there. But the weight that you lose is muscle mass, 40%, 25 to 40% muscle mass, which has this own set of problems. Most notably, it's going to slow down your weight loss over a period of time. We'll get into that. Okay. So I was going to find this app. I'll share it off my little thing when we get to it. It's the total daily energy expenditure. So let's do this. Let me go ahead and share my screen here and get started. I think I have a quorum here today. Let's see. So I'm going to go down and grab my PowerPoint presentation. So we're going to talk about protein, fiber, and healthy fats. That's the goal for us to eat good food and eat it for a period of time. I'm going to ask that you follow our program, follow our eating habits and eating style and exercise style for a year. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. And we can do it for a year. And not only can we do it for a year, we will be propelled to do it for a year. All right. So you said, well, can I give up bread for a year? I think you can. Can I give up mashed potatoes? Can I give up pasta for a year? I think you can. That doesn't mean that after that year that I want you to go back immediately, but I'm going to say to you that after a year, you want to have a sandwich, go for it. As long as it's basically not every single day. And what this GLP-1 does, when you nurture your own GLP-1, you're not going to have the cravings for that sandwich anymore. You're not going to have that cravings for that fried chicken anymore. You're not going to have that cravings for that rice or that pasta. You're just not. All right. And that means a lot. All right. So let's go here. So we're going to talk about, let's talk calories. And I'm going to try to stick to one topic today, and that's going to be it. Let's see what we got. Uh-oh. So this is some spillover from last week. And this is where I get you guys engaged. All right, so these are some questions from last week. I just want to test your memory from last week. If you were here, if you weren't here, then that's okay. As we go forward, I'm going to tell you some questions. We're going to make up some new questions, and next week I'll give you some new questions. And I want you to go ahead and remember those questions because I want you to put them into action. Okay. So what is GLP-1? I kind of just told you the answer to that, but I'm good. This is an open book test. But let me hear what you got to say first. All right, somebody says, I'm new here. I'm getting ready for surgery, so bring on all the information. I'm going to give you, you're going to be sorry what you asked for that. But anyway, GLP-1, what are the two main functions of GLP-1? What are the three food nutrients that strongly activate GLP-1? Okay, what are seed oils? So now I'm getting to the area of what's destroying our GLP-1. Why is our GLP-1 as metabolically challenged people? Why is our GLP-1 low? And it is. It is. We've done that study. So the study, I don't want to bore you with a bunch of studies, and I don't want to bore you with how I look at studies. One of the podcasts that I'm getting ready to, and I'm preparing to do is what I'm commonly seeing on the internet right now. I see doctors making good videos about their opinions, because without data, all you got is an opinion. Their opinions about what is going to work for you. And then now the new trend is for doctors to bash other doctors. I think that's kind of sad because what that winds up happening is that brings a problem, a significant problem to the people that we're trying to teach. So when Dr. X talks about Dr. Y said this and he didn't have the data to show this, and this is why his opinion is wrong. When we see that, and then you guys see that, you say, well, who the hell are we supposed to believe? So I'm putting a podcast out there about doctors bashing doctors of opinion. We just need to be able to figure out, okay, fine, who we're going to listen to, who has the most valid data. Because there's a study out there, and every single one of these doctors will quote a study. And you've got to be able to figure out, okay, fine, which one of these studies is legit and which one is full of fluff. Because you can get a study that tells you anything. Like I demonstrated last week, we had a study that was a pretty decent study out of, I forget where it was, Sweden or someplace over there, where it showed that taking GLP-1 drugs for 2 to 3 years increases your incidence of medullary thyroid carcinoma. The study was a good study. It was a population-based study. Not the best type of study, but we do population-based studies all the time. That's how we found out that cigarette smoking is harmful to your health and produces lung cancer. That was a population-based study. That study showed that, yes, there's an increased incidence of thyroid cancer when you're taking GLP-1 drugs for greater than 2 or 3 years, all right? But when you look at the fine print of that study, you've got to look at certain things. What's the hazard ratio? What's the confidence interval? Confidence interval, for instance, is the little things in the parentheses that says, how confident are you, study, how confident are you that what you're saying is true? Anything with a confidence of greater than 1.0 means that it's, some level. It means that, yeah, we're reasonably confident. But when you get the confidence level of 0.8 to 0.95, the confidence level of what you're saying is not so much. Then you have to do the absolute risk ratio and then basically the relative risk ratio. So that study said yes. And so people came on the webinar, keep it on YouTube, and says, yeah, you got to ask your doctor to make sure that they're checking your thyroid. Well, when you look at the fine data, it shows that the confidence interval of that study ranged from 1.05 to 1.95. So between 5% and 95% confidence level, a big range. It's not very comforting, right? So, and then on top of that, the absolute risk was the most important thing that killed the study to me. Because so yeah, it showed that it was above one. Confidence interval that it was above that. What we were saying is indeed true, but what difference does it make that it is true? Well, that's where we get the risk ratio in. And so as it turns out that yeah, there is an increased incidence of thyroid cancer, taking GLP-1 drugs for over 2 to 3 years. But what does that mean in the real world? The bottom line is the relative risk ratio versus the absolute risk ratio. The absolute risk ratio, meaning that the absolute chance of you getting thyroid cancer if you're taking these drugs, was 1 in 100,000, 1 in 200,000. One person. I mean, you have a higher chance of getting hit by a car as you're walking across the street. So you got to put things in perspective. So just to show you that, again, you're going to find people that are quoting studies, but then you have to ask, is that person who's quoting that study, is that study legit? And to me, for that particular study, don't worry about it. Don't lose any sleep over it. We've got a greater chance of having something else happen to us before we ever get thyroid cancer. Now, like I said, I'm not a GLP-1 advocate for the most part. I use it, and I use it for special reasons for a short period of times. But I don't want people to be alarmists, especially physicians that you guys are listening to. I don't want physicians to be alarmists and start saying, yeah, you got to ask your doctor every time you go see your doctor, how's my thyroid doing? No, don't lose any sleep over it. It's bottom line. Because chances are it ain't going to happen to you. If you've been taking GLP-1 drugs for 2 or 3 years, 4 years, I don't care. Chances are 1 in 200,000. Yeah. So anyway, that's how I look at studies. And that's why I want to approach and stop the rhetoric about every doctor coming on there and then pouncing on other doctors saying, I found this study that shows this. So my opinion is right because I found this study, 2 studies, 3 studies that show this. No, got to dig through the weeds. All right. So I digress. How much protein should we consume each day? How much fiber should we consume each day? We just answered that question, didn't we? Okay. So what is GLP-1? It's called glucagon-like polypeptide 1. I want you to remember that, right? I don't want you to remember that. That's for me to remember. What is GLP-1? Wegovy, semaglutide, Mounjaro, tirzepatide, Ozempic, whatever you want to call it. Those are the drugs that are out there on the market. But those drugs came from what we already produce in our bodies. Just like if you have thyroid deficiency, that there was no scientist that says, "Oh, I should win the Peace Prize primarily because I invented thyroid." No, our bodies were already making thyroid hormone. Scientists, drug scientists, just duplicated what we were already making, and that's all we did with the GLP-1 drugs that you're getting. It's already something that your body's already producing. You're just producing less of it. All right. All right. Let's see. What are the 2 main functions of GLP-1? What are they? I don't know if glucagon, not protein, polypeptide, not peptide 1, not protein 1. Okay. Yeah. Did I say protein? Glucagon like polypeptide 1 or peptide 1. All right. What are the 2 main functions of GLP-1? Increase satiety. It makes you feel full on smaller amounts. When your GLP-1 is working, as it will be after you've had some sort of pouch reducing surgery, and even if those who are on here don't necessarily want to have surgery, we're going to talk about that. Okay, so it's kind of mixed in there that people who've had the surgery tend to regain the weight if they don't follow the rules, and people who haven't had the surgery will can actually lose the weight and keep it off if they follow these suggestions, activating your GLP-1. So if you eat a boiled egg, You're going to feel full about halftime, by halfway through that boiled egg. That's not enough calories, right? So the other thing is that when you eat that boiled egg, you're not going to have that propensity to eat that waffle. You're not going to have that craving to eat that waffle or that pancake, or are those basically the the syrup that you put on it. You're not going to have that desire. So those two things are very, very important in order for us to do one thing, and that is to eat less than our body requires to survive. Eat less calories than our body requires to survive. Our bodies require a certain number of calories in order to survive. We eat less than that. The body says, I can't survive with those calories you just gave me. That half a boiled egg you just ate, or the whole boiled egg you just ate, ain't going to cut it for the day. All right, eat a half a piece of salmon later on. That ain't going to cut it for the day. I want you to know what your basal metabolic rate is. And that's what the little chart that I was looking for. Because everybody can Google, put their height, their weight, their sex in there, and basically find out what your basal metabolic rate is approximately. And all these things are approximate. They're not absolute. But we're not looking for absolutes. We're looking for trends. So what your basal metabolic rate is, what your total daily energy expenditure is, okay? And I'm going to throw out a few terms, but I'm going to explain these terms as we go along, all right? So the two functions of GLP-1, everybody got that? Pause every now and then. GLP-1 increases your satiety, makes you feel full on smaller amounts of food, and it decreases your desire to have junk food, seed oils, refined carbohydrates. Why is that important? Because then we go back to the calorie equation, and that calorie equation says calories in versus calories out. So if we're taking less calories in than our body requires to survive, if we're taking less calories in than what our body, if we're moving around, or we're moderately active, we're doing your zone 2 walking, that's called moderate activity, and you're doing resistance training a couple times a week, that's moderate activity. And that has a constant that you multiply your basal metabolic rate to get to your total daily energy expenditure. And if you're taking less calories than your total daily energy expenditure, the goal is to do that. The goal is, because if we're taking less calories in, we've got to get calories from somewhere. Because of why? Because your body says, I gotta survive. And I cannot survive on the 1,000 calories that you just gave me. What's the ultimate goal? To rob from the fat stores where all those calories are living right now. To rob from those fat stores and to supply your body with the energy that it needs. And as you begin to take out a certain amount of fat every single day to supply your body with those needs, then you begin to lose fat, which is our goal. Our goal is to lose fat. Full stop. Full stop. All right. Our goal is not to lose weight. Our goal is not to lose weight. Because unfortunately, that's what some of the GLP-1 drugs do. That's what some of the weight loss surgery does. And so we got to put all this together to figure out, okay, how am I going to get to the primary ultimate goal? And that is to lose fat, and fat only. Because when we lose muscle, a whole bunch of other things occur. When we lose 40% muscle, then our basal metabolic rate slows down. And so we're burning less energy. We're burning less energy, and so we're not taking as much fat out. And anything that causes us not to take much fat out will be reflected on the amount of fat that we have maintained. So when people come into the office and say, Doc, I've lost 10 pounds, I lost 20 pounds in the past month. Aren't you happy for me? We put them on the bioimpedance scale, and it says, okay, fine, your amount of fat that you had before surgery was 50%. Your amount of fat today is 48%, but you've lost 20 pounds. That means that 20 pounds wasn't fat. That means that 20 pounds was some muscle mass in there. And so that's when I have to stop and have to teach and say, that's not what we want to lose. So I have to get you to recognize that our goal is not to lose weight. Our goal is to lose fat because that has all sort of implications. All right, let's continue. Let's not get too much in the weeds. What are the 3 food nutrients that we're going to be talking about that you all want me to tell you what to eat? The 3 food groups, the three food nutrients. Let me just kind of pause there and see if anybody's listening to me. Be like a preacher. What are the 3 food nutrients that I'm asking you to put into the chat box right now? What are the 3 food nutrients that our goal is to concentrate on? What am I going to have for my brunch that I've taught you guys that you need to have for your brunch? We won't talk about too much about fasting today, but my first meal of the day is usually 11 or 12 o'clock. I'm on a cycle of 18-hour fasting, but that's the story for another day. All right. So there we go. Protein, fiber, and healthy fats. Those are the 3 food nutrients that we're going to concentrate on today. Okay. And we're going to show you how to put them into a plate so that you can see what it is that you should be eating over this period of time. Okay. Protein. All right. The 3 food nutrients that stimulate GLP-1, and I'm going to get to the slides in just a second, but these are just words right now that I want you to kind of park in your brain just for a second. It says strongly in the small bowel. What does it do strongly in the small bowel? The first cells in your small bowel that have GLP-1 stored in it, these are cells are called L cells. Nothing for you to remember, but there are cells that need to be activated in your small bowel. It goes through your esophagus, the food goes through your esophagus, into your small pouch or to your regular stomach, and then it goes into your small bowel. Not anything happens in your esophagus. It's just something that is a passageway. The stomach kind of churns and gurns and digests things. The magic begins to happen in your small bowel. One of the things that happens in your small bowel is that you stimulate or you turn off those L cells. L cells, remember, produce GLP-1. So the first thing we're going to eat when we eat our meal is going to be something that's going to strongly stimulate those L cells producing GLP-1 that'll produce our satiety, making us eat smaller amounts, and then it's going to decrease our cravings. So our small bowel is the first thing that it comes to. As the food goes down the small bowel, it's going to get to the lower small bowel and then to the colon. All right. So protein stimulates the L cells first. Protein first. Okay. Second component that we're going to eat with our meal is fiber. And fiber you can eat all throughout the day. As a matter of fact, you kind of have to. But you only get 2-3 grams of fiber in asparagus, 4 grams or so in an avocado. So where are you going to get all your fiber? Well, fiber's in here. It's got to be in the form of a powder, especially if I've made your stomach the size of a small egg. Especially if I've made your stomach, and that's a bypass. Especially if I've made your stomach into the size of a small banana. That's a sleeve. And so if I'm going to do that, then there's no way. That's a lot of asparagus you got to eat. That's a lot of avocado you got to eat in order to get 40 grams, or for women, 25 grams. You can't do it. You're not going to be able to do it. You have to get a supplement. So I'm going to tell you some supplements that you have to get, because most of the food that you're going to be taking in, most of the nutrients that you're going to be taking in after the surgery are supplemental nutrients, protein powder, fiber powder. Okay. Because if you, just think about it. If I tell you, you got to get 25 grams of fiber in a day, and the asparagus only has 2 or 3 grams, how many servings of asparagus will you need in order to get that 25 grams? Do the math, right? That's a lot. And on top of that, you can't do it because I've just made your stomach into the size of an egg. You'll never be able to get the fiber in. Some of us are not getting the fiber in anyway, but you definitely can't get it in with foods. Okay. So I want to dispel some of the myths that you can take in all of your nutrients by eating food. If you're taking in all your nutrients by eating food, your stomach's too big. You're not taking in the decreased amount of calories that I want you to take in. So fiber basically provides food for the microbiome. The microbiome, the bacteria in your colon, need that fiber to survive. What is the role of the microbiome in weight loss? The microbiome, as it begins to eat and it begins to poo-poo or whatever, it produces 3 short chain fatty acids. And every time you see me grimace here and I pause, I'm saying, okay, fine. I'm not getting too deep. I don't want to lose anybody. But the bottom line is it produces butyrate. Butyrate is something that strongly stimulates the GLP-1 cells in the colon. Okay? So let me reiterate. You got GLP-1 cells in your small bowel, and you got GLP-1 cells in your colon, and then your lower part of your small bowel. And you got more GLP-1 cells as you go further down your bowel towards your colon. Okay. So the more GLP-1 cells you have, the more you'll be able to produce. Never to the range of what you're going to get by a shot, but whatever we need. Okay. So fiber basically takes food down to the microbiome, feeds it. The microbiome produces butyrate. Butyrate is a very, very strong stimulus for the L cells in the colon to release GLP-1. Protein in the small bowel, GLP-1 release. Fiber in the colon, GLP-1 release. All right. And then healthy fats. Those healthy fats come from your liver. I mean, they stimulate bile acids from your liver. Won't get too much into the weeds on this. I'm trying not to, ladies and gentlemen, I really am. But I got to explain to you the core principles here. So you're taking in healthy fats primarily to release bile acids into your bowel. And then when those bile acids get to the colon, then they stimulate the L cells again. So get it. So this is how it happens. You're eating brunch. You're eating eggs. You're eating some sort of meat and some sort of avocado. Okay, that's protein. The avocado is fiber, and then you got some healthy fat in the eggs and all that. So you're basically taking in the perfect meal at brunch time, right? Just with that simple thing alone. What you're going to get is that taking in the egg is going to first stimulate the GLP-1 in your bowel. You're going to get it up. It only lasts for a couple of minutes because you have an enzyme called dipeptidopeptidase 4. It's going to destroy it, and it's going to gradually, the GLP-1 is gradually going down. What we want to do is mirror what the drugs are doing. We want to keep the GLP-1 up and keep it up all day. So protein first is going to be that first blip, and then it's going to start coming down. But if you then eat that, what? Eat that fiber, then it's going to give that protein, when that fiber gets to the colon, it's going to give you a second wave a few hours later of elevated GLP-1. Cool. I'm throughout my day. It's 3 o'clock now. And then as it continues to try to go down, then you're going to eat another meal, and it's going to contain the healthy fats, and it's going to stimulate L cells again in the colon to go back up. So the end result is, on average, your GLP-1 does this throughout the day. And the GLP-1 that stays up throughout the day provides you with satiety. You've eaten a lot less food. And basically, you're decreasing your cravings. None of those meals contain bread. None of those meals contain pasta. None of those meals contain the mashed potatoes or the macaroni and cheese because you didn't crave it anymore. Okay? And then the next day, it starts all over again. All right? All right. And how much protein should we consume a day? That's going to be a topic for another discussion. But we know that what we're trying to accomplish is basically keeping our muscles intact, because our muscle mass, when we're sleeping or whenever else, is one of the sole contributors to our basal metabolic rate. Basal metabolic rate means, what does it require for how many calories does your heart need in order for you to survive? Your kidneys need. How many calories does your liver need? How many calories does your brain need? Those things, that's without doing any activity at all. You need a certain number of calories without doing any activity at all. Just sleeping or just laying there, you need a certain number of calories in order just to wake up in the morning. That's called your basal metabolic rate, okay? And you can figure that out. I'll show you an app to get you on that trail. How much protein should we consume each day? That protein basically is around about, for our total daily energy expenditure and our basal metabolic rate, we need about a gram per pound of ideal body weight. Now, I know somebody on here is probably saying, Doc, could you just get to the point and tell us what we're supposed to eat? All right, get in. All right. And how much fiber should we consume? We already talked about that, 25 to 40 grams. All right. This is what I was just talking about. This is the paper that came out, GLP-1 drugs and thyroid cancer, the influencer claim. And this is what I'm talking about. The 95% confidence interval was between 1.05 and 2.90. How confident are we that that study was good? Don't go back, and I already told you the story on this. Look at that wide range of confidence interval. And then the relative risk is even worse. So the absolute risk is 1.5 people will get a thyroid cancer per 100,000 person years. Don't lose any sleep over it, is what this is saying to you. But again, somebody came out there and said GLP-1 drugs and thyroid cancer. Made people worry about it. Made people ask their doctors about it. The doctors got bombarded with, what about the thyroid cancer that this study was talking about? Don't lose any sleep over it because of this. All right. Same thing with statins, preventing heart attacks. On the opposite end, says everybody should be on a statin, right? Everybody should be on a statin is what one study came out. But again, that study, kind of the same thing. When you know how to read these numbers needed to treat, statin group, control group, absolute risk ratio, just didn't pan out, and everybody didn't need to be on a statin. So this young lady came into the office. I'm going to talk about this for a second. This young lady came to the office. She had bariatric surgery a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now. She came in at 350 pounds. Her ideal body weight was 175, 180 pounds. She came in, when we do surgery, we expect to lose around about, depending upon how high you are when we start, our average weight loss is around about, 12 to 15 pounds a month. Okay. Some people want to do more, depending upon what they eat and how they exercise. But she came in for an interview, and I think that interview is coming out this week. But she came in primarily, and something didn't look right. So she had lost 150 pounds. Okay. So she went from 350 down to 200, only 20 pounds shy of her goal weight, 180, 170, 180, 20 to 30 pounds shy. Okay. But when she came in, the visit before, she had lost 150 pounds, down to 200, right? You follow me? When she came in, she had gained 25 pounds back. So she was at 225. Our goal was to get to 180. All of a sudden, she started going back. Now, was that just a fluke? Was it just a hiccup? Not really. I'm going to tell you what happens and what we have to do as physicians, as bariatric surgeons, as your guide, as your coach, to recognize that slide and to be able to stop it. Because if we just leave it alone, says, okay, fine, not do this and do this and do this, and you send you home, I'm not going home with you. So I'm not going to be your coach at home. I'm only your coach on Saturday mornings. And when you come to the office, and we have you come back to the office once every 3 months, that's a lot of time to get into trouble. So she's going to tell you what she did. I'm going to see if you can pick up on it, okay? All right. If I can get it, hopefully I get it started.
What's my favorite meal and why?
Say Taco Bell.
No, I like Italian food. I like seafood. And so I love lobster. It's so yummy.
This is not going on. I want to hear this.
I love lobster.
You said when you started off wrong, it's Italian food.
I know, it's so bad. But I like, I don't eat a lot of pasta because it's too heavy. It's too heavy. There's certain things I just cannot eat after the surgery.
I don't eat a lot of pasta. She's eating pasta. Now, that's one of the foods that I want to stay away from within this period of time. She doesn't eat a lot of pasta. That means she's eating it. So we're gonna see what the results are. If I can figure out how to get this thing correct.
food. I like seafood, and so it's so yummy.
This is not going on. I wasn't going to hear this.
I love lobster.
You said when you started off wrong, it's Italian food.
I know it's so bad, but I like, I don't eat a lot of pasta, because it's too heavy. It's too heavy. There's certain things I just cannot eat after the surgery. It's just too heavy.
What Italian food are you talking about?
Huh? What Italian food?
Pizza?
I love pizza.
Oh Lord.
I do. It's my favorite. Pizza is my favorite.
Oh Lord. We got ways to go there.
We do, because pizza is my favorite.
Oh,
so
Lord.
If I have to have it, I tell you what I do.
We ain't gotta have it.
I know. And look, it's so rare, but it's like I like maybe once every 3 or 4 months I have it. This is what I do. This is what I tell my mind. I order the Domino's thin crust pizza. I do. And because it's like eating crackers. So I feel like if I don't have the big slice, then, I'm doing myself good. And it's like 2 or 3 pieces of the thin crust. It's like crackers, and that's my fix, and I'm done. I know, so bad. I'm messing up my GL. I just, oh man.
I could probably.
And Cheez-Its. I can't eat Cheez-Its anymore. I can't not eat cheese. I tried to eat some Cheez-Its, Duncan. And it was like 2 or 3 cheese, because Cheez-Its, because at my school we eat, right?
Cheese.
Yeah, my GOP is all.
Okay. So the point is she ate some cheeses, she ate some pasta, all that. I won't show the whole video because one of my relatives on here says, you already showed that, right? I always want to tell my relatives, there are people who are new here, all right? So anyway, the bottom line is that she began to eat some certain things that were taboo, all right? And she says and I commonly see that people come back and say, well, I only ate a little bit of that. I only ate a slice of that. I only ate a little handful of those cheeses. And she goes on and on to tell me the things that she's done. And so I'm not there to chastise her. I'm there to teach her, okay? Because I've then got to say, okay, fine, I get it. We get to a party, we got to have some cake, we got to have some ice cream. I get that. But we've got to be able to come back from that. Because what happens is that when she ate that cheese, when she ate that pasta, and she got on that scale said, oh, it's not so bad. I only gained a pound. Okay. And then she continued to do it. So it was kind of positive reinforcement that she was doing okay, right? But over a period of few weeks, she gained 25 pounds. And the problem is that she turned off her GLP-1 cells. When you start eating things with seed oils and refined carbohydrates, those things produce toxins that kill your mitochondria. The L cells in the bowel, in the colon, and in the small bowel are very, very, very fragile. And when you begin to kill the mitochondria or slow the mitochondria down with these byproducts of what we're talking about, the byproducts of the short chain, not the short chain fatty, but the byproducts of the soybean oil, okay? And the refined carbohydrates. Those byproducts are dangerous to our mitochondria. And if we slow down our mitochondria, then that essentially turns off the function of those L cells. So you don't produce GLP-1. So if everybody's wondering how their GLP-1 went down, let me see if I can explain it right. The mechanism is you're taking things that crackers, cookies, cheeses, pasta, all of those things are producing a particular byproduct. And that particular byproduct, the particular, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not getting too far in the weeds, because I think that I'm leaving people a little bit. So I'm not going to go too deep into it. But the byproduct destroys mitochondria all throughout the body, but especially to those super sensitive cells, the L cells. So once people are on a diet, and this is the study that we did, and I can show you the study, there's a beautiful study that pre-op patients, before they had bariatric surgery, pre-op patients had a markedly decreased level of GLP-1. And their GLP-1s just went out. So they were never full. And they were basically always eating because their GLP-1 levels were down. All right. And so what happens is that they weren't feeding the mitochondria, they weren't producing butyrate, and they were basically destroying the mitochondria with the byproducts of these seed oils. All right. Well, let's talk about what that byproduct is. But so you're decreasing your function of your L cells, decreasing your output of GLP-1. Your satiety is not there anymore, and your cravings are coming back. So you think that she only had a handful of cheeses one time? No. You think she only had pasta one time? No. And like I said, she was reinforced by that scale, and that scale basically showed, yeah, I just only gained a pound. Then next day, oh, I only gained another pound. And eventually she gained 25 pounds back. Okay. So these are the foods that we're talking about that contain protein, fiber, and healthy fat. 10-day metabolic plan. Take a screenshot of that. And if you don't want to hear about all the science, this is all I want you to take in for the first year. Because if you do this, your GLP-1 levels, and if you do this and you supplement with fiber, it's called triple fiber, TRIPLE, triple fiber. I thought it was 3-in-1, but a patient said, nope, it's not 3-in-1. It's called triple fiber, okay? That is a little teeny tiny spoon in there. And you take that and you put it into your coffee. That gives you 7 grams, all right? And so then, and it may be two of those little things, but anyway, it dissolves really nicely in your drink. And then when you take your protein shake, which you'll have to do, because especially after surgery, none of my patients can eat this whole omelet, especially the first month or so after surgery. They can eat a quarter of it, maybe even half of it. And then they'll eat smaller and smaller amounts as they go along. As they go along, they'll eat more and more amounts. So the first month after surgery, you're probably able to eat that, probably a quarter of that. But after surgery, 3, 4, 5, 6 months after that, you'll eat this whole plate. This whole plate you'll eat. And you'll be full. And you'll only be full with 2 meals a day, which is what we want to do. And that's going back to our concept that we want to basically do some autophagy. And I'm pausing here because I'm bringing in too many things. But we're doing fasting. We've got to do at least 14 hours of fasting, or 16 hours or 18 hours of fasting, primarily because we got to take out the trash. And as insulin goes up, as it does with every meal, that inhibits autophagy. That inhibits your body cleaning out itself. So we got to give it a time that we're not eating, that we're just drinking water, or we're just drinking coffee, that we're not eating, that we're not stimulating insulin. When insulin is low, our body is cleaning itself. Okay, that's the fasting principle. Okay, anyway, take a screenshot of this. This is what we want to eat. So there's fiber here, not enough. There's fiber in that avocado, not enough. Fiber in those green beans, not enough. But there's fiber. There's onions and all that kind of stuff. There's not enough fiber. It's 3 or 4 or 5 grams. Okay, and so you get 3, 4, 5 grams with every meal, 2 meals a day, 10 grams, not enough. So you got to supplement with the triple fiber. Okay. This is another screenshot. Day 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 was supposed to be there somewhere. But it's kind of, some people say, Doc, that's boring. Well, we're going to have to be boring for a while. But the cool thing about it is not so much as boring, but you're satisfied. And that's all we need. Food is just an energy source. We're commonly using today in today's society as a pleasurable thing. Because certain foods, seed oils and refined carbohydrates, stimulate our dopamine and our mesolimbic system of our brain. We're getting pleasure out of eating. That's okay, but we can get pleasure out of our contact, out of our social context, eating with family and friends, without the pleasure of the food going down our throat. It can be good. This tastes good to me. But I don't necessarily have to have the bread associated with it. That gives me even more pleasure. Or the baked potato or the macaroni and cheese, it gives me even more pleasure. I don't have to have that dopamine response. I get enough just basically eating that and talking to my friends while I'm eating. Okay. All right. So the two mechanisms, let's see if I can go to, let me see what we talked about. Yeah. Because autophagy, taking out the trash, it doesn't occur until you have insulin levels low for 14 to 16 hours. So the minimal amount between meals from the day before to the next day is 14 hours. So mine is 18 hours. So I stop eating at 6 o'clock. I don't eat again until 12 o'clock the next day. That's 18 hours without eating anything. I'm only taking water and coffee. So that gives my body enough to start autophagy. That 14 hours, it starts autophagy, but it's just starting autophagy. I want a deep cleansing of my body, and so I'll go 18 hours. Now you don't have to stay on that, but basically, that's kind of the routine that I have. So protein, fiber, and healthy fats. Let's get into them. So a bariatric surgery, what do? We decrease the size of the stomach. That gives us a calorie deficit. And then those food groups that we're telling people to eat, the ones that I just showed you, will begin to stimulate GLP-1 receptors in the small bowel, protein first, okay? And then you're gonna have another wave of GLP-1 as it goes down into the lower part of the small bowel and into the colon. You're gonna add, so that's where the healthy fats and the fiber come in. So you're gonna get another wave of GLP-1 release. So like I said before, our goal is to stimulate GLP-1 and keep its level throughout the day so that we don't cheat during the day, okay? And so basically what we're going to do is take away that pleasure associated with eating food. Eating food is primarily the goal is to give ourselves the energy in order to get through the day. The food industry has made food pleasurable, too much pleasure. I mean, alcohol is pleasurable, but too much alcohol is a problem. Everything in moderation is okay. All right. But when we start getting too much pleasure from eating, then we eat a lot. Then we eat the wrong foods that gives us that pleasure, that dopamine release. Those cheeses gave her a dopamine release. The pasta, the pies, the apple pies and the cheesecakes and the ice cream gives me a great dopamine release. But it does some other things as well. All right. Satiety and decreased cravings. All right. So the L cells that I'm talking about are here. Now, they're not that abundant in the small bowel. This is the small bowel. You got a few sprinkling of the L cells. So once food comes down into the stomach, it digests and grinds and then makes it into smaller liquid particles that then goes into here and it stimulates these L cells in the small bowel. Protein does it first. Now, if you're taking in pasta, macaroni and cheese, it basically makes a byproduct. Okay. And that byproduct is linoleic acid. I didn't want to say it. I was trying not to say it. But that linoleic acid is a problem because once that linoleic acid breaks down, it breaks down into, and see, that's why I'm pausing. It breaks down to a product called 4-hydroxynonenal. There, I said it. 4-hydroxynonenal. And when 4-hydroxynonenal is what destroys the mitochondria. Okay. So the bottom line is that when you're eating seed oils, those seed oils eventually break down to a product that causes these little cells to not function. These little cells don't function, no GLP-1. Okay. So what we do is we take the bowel from the lower part of the bowel, we bring it up to the stomach with the intention of that. You've got two mechanisms that work now. You're decreasing the amount of calories you can take in because you only have the stomach the size of an egg up to a small tennis ball. And so you're going to only eat so much. But then the whole goal is to do the safety net and stimulate these with the right food so you get your GLP-1 up. Two mechanisms, calorie restriction, taking a small pouch, and you don't even have to have a pouch. You don't have to have surgery at all. But if indeed you have a normal sized stomach and you eat only a half a boiled egg, you're going to be hungry because there are forces that are acting that says, hey, that was nice. That was just a taste. That was the appetizer, right? Where's the rest of the food? Okay. Because that's a function of how this stomach is perceiving the quantity of food you take in. You have other things called ghrelin, things of that nature to say, okay, fine. That food was enough. That food was not enough. So the first thing we do to restrict the calories is to make the stomach smaller. And if you don't have that capacity to make it smaller, if you don't have surgery, then the second thing you want to do is totally rely upon your secondary net. And your secondary net is just GLP-1. So those two mechanisms, if you had surgery, you got the calorie restriction in, and then you're going to activate your GLP-1. If you haven't had the surgery, if you only eat a small amount by willpower, this is the diet, and that's why diets don't work. But if you're only going to do it with willpower, then you've got to activate your GLP-1. You can only activate your GLP-1 with protein, fiber, and healthy fats. Pasta ain't going to do it. Pasta is going to turn it off because it makes linoleic acid, 4-hydroxynonenols, and it's going to turn off the mitochondria. You're going to produce less GLP-1. So you're going to say, I only ate a little slice of pizza. That turned off your GLP-1. So the next couple of hours, you're going to be hungry again. And then, so because the GLP-1 increases satiety and the GLP-1 decreases cravings. All right. So if you're starting to crave pizza, cheeses, mashed potato, macaroni and cheese, and bread, you turned off your GLP-1. So if you're not gonna, if you didn't have surgery, and I'm speaking from the heart here, because a lot of people here who are not going to have surgery, who don't want to have surgery, but this is the way to do it. You got to, because once you just take in a small amount by willpower, you're going to be hungry again because your stomach is going to say, hey, that wasn't enough to meet my demands. But then what you're going to do is say, okay, fine, I'm going to give it some more protein. I'm going to get the protein shake. I'm going to give it some more fiber. I'm going to give it some more healthy fats. I'm going to put some olive oil on my salad. And basically that's going to say, I'm full. That's going to make you say, I'm full, even though your stomach is not full. So the GLP-1s are more powerful than the stomach signals. You know that. There are most people out there who are taking the GLP-1 drugs. They hadn't had surgery. So that GLP-1 is a powerful companion, but you want to activate your own because there are problems with the other. All right. So that's what we do with the surgery, the gastric bypass, the sleeve. They all have the same mechanism. I'm manually reducing the size so that you don't have to think about, okay, fine, I got to do this out of willpower. You don't got to do it out of willpower if you've had a stomach that's reduced in size. We do that for you. Then on top of that, your GLP-1 is activated. Now, the problem is that people have regained weight after surgery, right? So with everything that I told you, you know why, correct? It's because they turn off the GLP-1 mechanism. So they've had surgery, so they reduce the amount of food that they can take in. But then if you eat pasta, bread, and all that through that small bowel, you turn off your GLP-1 cells. You're going to eat again. You're going to lose your satiety. You're going to increase your cravings, and you're going to regain the weight. That's what's happened to her. That's the bottom line. Okay. All right. So let me figure out. I'm just going to do something with you guys and see if I can figure this out. All right. I am going to go. All right. How many people? Let's take a female who weighs. Let's talk about calories. Let's take a female who weighs 300 pounds. She's 5'4", 5'5". And if you all want to, y'all can participate in this and basically just open your calculators up, but I'm going to try to show it. Okay. So let's see if I can get this Zoom. I want to share the screen over here. Okay. All right. Let's see. It didn't come up. Let's see. Let me make sure I got share the screen. Okay. What are y'all seeing on the screen? Are you seeing? It says Titus Duncan has started sharing the screen. Okay, let's see if I can get something to come up. You should be seeing a calculator come up, okay? Let me know in the chat box if you're seeing a calculator come up. If it's not, that means the thing's not functioning. But anyway, we're going to talk about calories in versus calories out, because what happens, no calculator. Okay. Well, obviously this is not working on my iPad. Let me stop that share. All right. Technical difficulties, all right? Let me see if I can share it on this one. Share. Okay. Can you see this? Can you see it's a BMI, total daily energy expenditure, and all that? Can you see that? Just all right. All right. Very good. All right. So this is a female who's 35 years of age, and she has a height of 5'5". She's 300 pounds. Okay. And this little device, this little app, I'll show you the name of this app. You can actually adjust it. Let's say she has little or no exercise, and then we hit calculate. When we hit calculate after little or no exercise, it'll basically give us the TDEE. So beneath that, you see the total daily energy expenditure. So that person with her no exercise and with her BMR, basal metabolic rate, she needs 2,400 calories a day in order to survive. Okay. So we can also take it and put in a little light exercise 1 to 3 times a week. And we hit calculate at the bottom, and she needs 2,800 calories a day. Now she's doing what I'm asking her to do, is she's actually walking in zone 2, 30 minutes a day, every day, and only lifting weights a couple of times. That's called moderate exercise. The moderate exercise, then you calculate, and she needs 3,000 calories a day. All right. So just to give you perspective, with the surgery, you're basically, the first month after surgery, you're only taking in 500 to 700 calories a day. Okay, because you're taking in liquids and we're getting things to heal and all that. Our ultimate goal, based upon all the calculations we've done over the past 100 years since we've been doing surgery, is to actually get you at around 1,000 calories per day, as far as what you're able to take in. So if you take exercise and you need 3,000 calories a day, and we're only giving you 1,000 calories a day, you have a 2,000 calorie deficit. Okay, is that clear? So with that 2,000 calorie deficit, you got to take. Let me see if I can. See, I'm getting into something that I don't want to get into. You got to basically. All right. Taking in 2,000 calories less a day. All right. So how many calories do you all have to spend? Now, I can't show my calculator, but the calculator basically shows that if you weigh 300 pounds, the majority of people that come into my office at 300 pounds, their body fat percentage is 50%. Okay. Now for females, I want to get that body fat percentage down to 25%. Okay. That's a healthy level. My body fat percentage, like I told you before, is around about 17% right now. I'm still working on getting that down. But I want to get you down to 25%. Okay. So if you come into the office with 50% of your weight is fat, that's not healthy. I only want 20% of your weight to be fat. Okay. So if 50% of a 300 pound is fat, and this is where I was showing the calculator, that means you got 150 pounds of fat that we basically have in our body. 50% is your body fat percentage. You can know this when you come to the office, but 50% is 150 pounds in a 300 pound person. Okay. But I don't want to lose all 150 pounds of fat, do I? I only want to get it down to 20%. So I have to lose 80% of that 150. Let me open my calculator. Even though you can't see it, I got to see it. So I have to lose 80% to get it down to 20. So 80%. Oops. Y'all may be doing this faster than I am. Times 150 pounds is 120. So I need to lose 120 pounds of fat. That's the goal. A 300-pound person, I got to lose 120 pounds of fat. Okay. So I got 120 pounds fat to lose. How many calories are in 120 pounds of fat? Well, 1 pound is equal to 3,500 calories. Everybody heard that before, right? If you've been on the internet, everybody pretty much knows 1 pound of fat is equal to 3,500 calories. So you multiply 120 times 3,500, and that gives you 420,000 calories that we have in our body that we need to lose. All right. So to make a long story short, if I'm telling you, okay, fine, with this surgery, we're gonna make a calorie deficit. And that calorie deficit, you're gonna be taking in less. You're gonna be taking 1,000 calories less. All right. So you can see the math that it's going to take you a little over a year to get that down, which is okay. So our average weight loss, fat loss, is 1,000 calories per day. So the key is this: when a person is going to lose that amount, there are two sets of people. So if I put two people side by side and I each said, okay, fine, we're going to take 1,000 calories out. Okay. This to show you that calories aren't the name game. Because if I give you 1,000 calories on your plate less of bacon and eggs and avocado versus a plate the same number of calories of waffle, pancake, and orange juice, it's going to react differently. So what happens is that when people come back to the office and say, Doc, my next door neighbor and I had the surgery the same day. It's theoretical. It's not real. Surgery the same day, but she's losing much more weight than I'm losing. I said, well, what are you eating? She says, well, I eat what you told me to eat. I said, well, you eating any sort of refined carbohydrates? And you say, oh, I only ate a little bit. Because what happens is that the insulin response, and mind you, insulin tells your body to stop burning fat and tells your body to store it as fat. Okay, just remember that. So what promotes insulin to go up? Carbohydrates. And not the fibrous carbohydrates, but the refined carbohydrates, the sugars, the pasta, the bread, the things of that nature, the refined carbohydrates. So if they're eating the same number of calories, they're getting different results because of the content that they're eating. So one person is losing 12 pounds a month. The other person is losing only 5 pounds a month, primarily because her diet includes a waffle every now and then, includes a sandwich every now and then, a small amount, and every now and then a slice of pizza and some Cheez-Its. So during that slice of pizza and the Cheez-Its, the insulin goes up. That inhibits fat breakdown. It does. I don't want to go into all the mechanisms today, but it does inhibit fat breakdown. Okay. And if you don't have fat breakdown, you have fat retention. So when the patients come back to the office, if they both came back at the same time, the other lost 12 pounds. I measure their body fat percentage. What they've lost in that month is fat because they've eaten protein, they've eaten salmon, they've eaten basically some asparagus, they've eaten avocado. They've eaten those things because they've stimulated their GLP-1 all throughout the day, every single day. When you sprinkle some pasta, some mashed potatoes, some macaroni and cheese in there every single day, you're going to stop fat burning. So when you come back to the office, and this is real, there are people who've lost 100 pounds with the surgery or with the diet protocol, and they get on the scale, and I've compared their chart and say, okay, fine, you're now down 100 pounds, but 80% of that weight that you've lost is muscle mass. That has happened, and that person did not look well. All right. And it's because that person was eating smaller amounts and the scale was going down. They thought that everything was okay. I'm still eating Cheerios, Doc. This is actual. I'm still eating Cheerios, Doc. I'm still eating my crackers. I'm still eating occasional pizza. I'll go to the movie and I'll eat some popcorn and all that. But I'm still losing weight, Doc. Aren't you proud of me? But they look sick. They were losing muscle mass. And there are 4 components of weight. That's why we got to get away from the scale in the bathroom. You got muscle mass, you have water mass, you have fat mass. What's the 4th one? Let me open my chat box again, because I want to make sure you guys aren't going to sleep. You have bone mass, right? So those 4 things. We don't want to lose bone, we don't want to lose water, and we don't want to lose muscle. We only want to lose fat, because that's the dangerous thing. All right. So when people tell me that they're eating the foods that they're not supposed to eat, I know that they turned off their GLP-1s, just like the reason I told you. Basically, they turn off the GLP-1s because they produce this chemical, 4-hydroxynonenols, that destroys their mitochondria, that decreases their L cell activity. So they're eating the wrong foods. They decrease their L cell activity. So they're not getting satiated. They're eating, frequently, because they eat that pizza and then say, "Oh, I'm still hungry." 2 hours later, they'll eat again. And I only want you to eat twice a day. So the bottom line is that basically this whole session is calories in versus calories out. Yeah, that has a crucial part to this whole story of fat loss, but it is not the most important part. The most important part is what we're producing as far as GLP-1 in our small bowel and in our colon. And you know that that's the case, because that's the way that people, why this selling of this stuff is a multi-billion-dollar industry, because it is working, and people are losing weight. They're losing weight. But unfortunately, when they come back to me and they've lost 40% of their body weight, the insulin resistance goes up. I said, "Doc, I didn't have diabetes before. Now I'm pre-diabetic." Yeah, you lost muscle mass. Muscle mass is crucial to maintain your metabolism. It's crucial to keep insulin resistance away. But you've lost muscle mass, you've lost weight, and basically now you're insulin resistant. Now your blood pressure is going up. Now your muscle mass is going, your skin is more fragile and is droopy, and your hair is falling out, and your nails are getting brittle. All right. So anyway, I'm going to end with this. And let me see if I can go and find this slide. I have no idea where I am. So I'm gonna just say it out loud. So protein, fiber, and healthy fats. Those are the things you're gonna eat. You're gonna eat 2 meals a day. And those 2 meals a day are gonna be very, very satisfying for the length of the entire day. And if you have to snack, one of the things I want you to snack on is strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, and blueberries. And if that's not enough, put it into some Greek yogurt that has 20 grams of protein in it. It satisfies a little bit of that sweetness too, because you're going to put the berries in there that has a little bit of natural sweetness to it. And basically you're going to eat it with something that has a lot of protein. That'll be towards your protein levels as well. All right. So you're going to eat 2 meals a day, and your snack is going to include walnuts, almonds, or any sort of nuts. And then if you have to have some sort of dessert, you're going to have a dessert in the form of Greek yogurt with some blackberries or blueberries or strawberries in it. Tastes good. You feel satisfied. Your GLP-1 is elevated. You don't need the cheeses. You don't need the pizza, even though your son and your daughter are eating the crackers and the pretzels and watching the football game. You don't need it because you don't have that desire. Okay. So we're going to do all of that. And every single day, we're going to do something similar to that. And basically, that keeps your GLP-1 elevated over the period of time, and you'll begin to continue to lose fat. The drugs are strong. The drugs are good for people who are a little bit overweight. You got 20, 30, 40 pounds to lose, and I'm sorry I'm not showing you my slides, but again, that the study that I want you to see is the study that shows that those people who are able to lose weight with the medicines are people with a BMI less than 35. If your BMI is greater than 35, then there's 90% chance of you regaining the weight. 90% chance of you regaining the weight once the medicine is stopped. And we're going to stop it. We don't take medicine like blood pressure medicine. This medicine, even though the insurance, even though the companies tout it as something that you should be doing, I'm not going to tell you to take this medicine the rest of your life. You shouldn't. Okay. Let me see if I can get back to my Zoom meeting in progress. I'm going to basically All right. So, I'm going to go to another slide that I think is important. This talks about seed oils. I'm going to open the chat box. You tell me what does seed oils produce? I'm going to talk for 2 more minutes and then we finish. What does seed oils produce that's toxic to your body? 4-HNE. They don't need to know that, but it produces something that slows down our mitochondria. The mitochondria is what the L cells depend upon in order to survive. If you slow that down, you turn your L cells off. So anytime you eat the cheeses, anytime you eat the ice cream, the cakes, the cookies, the crackers, the pasta, anytime you eat those things, basically you're turning off your L cells. Full stop. Okay? All right, let's see if I can. All right, I am going to get things out of here if I can. Okay, do I have any questions? Because that's the people tell me that they eat a small amount. That's what I wanted to address today. All right, so let me go back to my webinar. I'm gonna look at the chat box just as we get ready to go. Let's try it for a week, 1 week at a time, right? Okay, yeah. Discuss the fiber preferences, please. Okay. So the fiber that I want you to take, as far as you take, you all know about fiber and onions and leeks and asparagus and broccolini, and you can go on and on. But most of the fibrous vegetables, what you should be is whole foods. But as far as the supplementation you're concerned, triple fiber. It has inulin, acacia. It used to have chia seeds in it. That made it 4-in-1, but inulin, acacia, and psyllium husk. That's why it's called 3-in-1, because it has those 3 components. You're gonna take in your normal amount of food that has it in there, your avocados and all that, but that only will give you a small amount. In order to get to your daily level, you got to have that 3-in-1. Okay. People don't pay attention to fiber, but again, if you don't pay attention to fiber, in effect, you're turning off your GLP-1 levels at the end of the day. All right. Okay. Somebody said, what kind of calculator was that? Good question. Let me see if I can find it again. That calculator. Let's see. Ooh. Intemodino. Intemodino. I have it on another, my phone over here. My phone I can't share, but so it takes your basal metabolic rate. It tells you what your total daily energy expenditure is. It tells you what you're gonna be, what your body needs every single day. You take in 500 calories less than that, 1,000 calories less than that every single day, you will lose fat as long as you follow the protocol of what you cannot eat the refined carbohydrates and the seed oils and expect to lose the same amount of fat. You just won't. You'll lose weight because you're going to lose muscle mass, but you cannot lose the fat. If you, 1,000, like I said, 1,000 calories on one plate where you have both basically salmon and cheese and water and a vegetable is not the same thing as macaroni, cheese, baked potato, and whatever else you put on your plate. Even though they're the same amount of calories, because the body handles them differently because of insulin. Insulin stops the breakdown of fat. Okay, don't want to stop the breakdown of fat. All right, let's see. So somebody says avoid fiber pills as supplements. Well, there are a lot of things out there. For instance, they're fiber gummies, which is trash because they contain all sort of bad things in it, sucralose and all that kind of stuff. So the things that tout to be easy ways to take it in fiber, yeah, they're basically trying to appeal to the market sense. But the safest thing I'm telling you, as far as I'm concerned, is the supplemental powder. Okay, you mix that in all throughout the day. I'm gonna have a protein shake at around about 1 or 2 o'clock, and I'll have another protein shake later this evening. I'll also put fiber in there as well. Okay. What supplements do you recommend? If you have the surgery, we're gonna give you the whole list of supplements. But you do have to take multivitamins. You do have to take bariatric multivitamins because the amount of food that you're eating, because everything is a double-edged sword. So we'll reduce the amount of food that you're eating, but you got to have certain nutrients, and you got to have a certain quantity of nutrients. We'll reduce the amount of food that you eat, but you got to have a certain amount of protein. We're going to reduce the amount of food that you eat, but you got to have a certain amount of fiber. You cannot have that with a smaller amount of food. That's why supplementation is correct. So bariatric vitamins, you can get those online as well. 3-in-1 fiber, okay? And then a type of protein, the whey protein that gives you 2 scoops will give you 60 grams of protein. Take that in once a day. Take a casein protein in later on that day. Casein is CASEIN. That gives you about 25 grams. So with the whey protein isolate earlier in the day and the casein protein isolate an hour before you go to bed, that's around about 80 grams of protein. Okay. And then you're going to have the food that you've eaten that's going to add on to it. But if you need a little bit more protein, I think you need to, especially if you're working out, I think you need to have a gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So theoretically, everybody here who weighs more than 150 pounds, ideally, should have 150 grams of protein that they're taking every single day. There's no way you're going to do that with eggs and bacon and steak and plants. You're not going to do that because your stomach is going to be too small. You turn on your GLP-1, so you're going to be satisfied with just eating a small amount. So that's the part of that double-edged sword. So you cannot, the only thing that's going to be able to go down is liquid. Because liquid will fill you up. You will fill you up, but you can get it down. Okay. And so you make that liquid protein shake, 2-3 a day. Okay. And some people say, well, I can't take that in every single day. I can't do it. Please, please, please try. Try. Because again, when you come back to the office and I see protein loss, brittle nails, and I see that you still got the amount of fat, I hadn't accomplished very much. And I want to accomplish a lot. Is edamame a good protein snack? It is. But soybeans were bad. No. So soybean has linoleic acid in it. All right. All right. I've gone way over my promise. Soybeans have linoleic acid. Linoleic acid is an essential fatty acid. I don't want you to stay away from it. I just want you to moderate it, because back in the days before we were having disease and all this stuff caused by our mitochondrial breakdown as a result of this essential fatty acids, the essential fatty acid means we got to take it in. We got to have it. Our body needs it. It's essential. Okay. But today we're taking it in at 80 grams a day. Back in the good old days, before we had all the diseases, it was only 10 grams a day. Taking 4 to 8 times more than we should be taking in. So it's the quantity we're taking. So soybeans in and of itself is okay, but it's when you get soybeans that are mixed in with all the other foods, the crackers, the salad dressings, the pastas, that amount of food that we're taking in, everything is on the box that says the soybean oil in it. It's cottonseed oil. So we want to cut it down to 10 grams a day. So the product in and of itself is not bad, because it's the essential thing we got to have. We just ain't got to have much of it. And it's just like oxygen. I can give you oxygen, that'll be good for you in a short period of time. But if I give you 100% oxygen over 2 days, I'm destroying your lungs. Oxygen destroys my lungs? Absolutely. I can give you oxygen, full 100% of oxygen, only for a short period of time. It's just like anything else. I can give you 8 glasses of water. Water is good for you. You need water, right? But if you were to take in 18 gallons of water every single day, it'll kill you. Too much water is bad for you. Too much oxygen is bad for you. Too much of anything is bad for you. It's all about quantitation. So I'm not demonizing those oils. I'm demonizing the amount that we're taking in. So that's why I said in the beginning that, yeah, you'll be able to take pizza. You'll be able to take some bread every now and then. You'll be able to take some pasta. I'm not going to take those foods away from you for the rest of your life. But we're going to learn to listen to our GLP-1 and says, oh, that little slice of pizza is all you need for the next 2 weeks. And then we control the moderation, and then we're good. All right. Hope that makes sense. All right. Let's see. So avoid fiber pills as supplements. If they contain what I just talked about, acacia, psyllium husk, some even have chia seeds, but some people complain about the chia seeds, but inulin. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't keep my promise. I'm sorry about that. But we will definitely do better next time. I'm going to ask you some of the same questions next week to see what you learn from here. Then next week, we're going to be talking about something very, very special. And so stay tuned next week. And basically, we're going to get everybody all squared away. So with that said, everybody go out there and do 30 minutes of zone 2 walking. I got my little watch on. It tells me when I'm in zone 2. It tells me what my VO2 is. It's a Samsung watch. And it tells me, and basically what it allows me to do is when I do my protein, fiber, and healthy fat, I've gone from 22% body fat over the past year. I'm down to 16.8 or 17% this morning. But my goal is to get down to 15%. I want you guys to get down to 20%. 20 to 25% is the healthy level. And like I said, the majority of people that come into my office have 50% body fat, which is what we want to tackle, okay? We want to tackle. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all take care. Put the name of the calculator in the chat. Let's see. Let me see if I can do that. It's made by NTEMODINO. Just look up, just put into your search bar on your Google Play. Put that name in there, put BMR NTDEE and look for that. Let me see if I could show. Hold on a second. Where'd it go? Okay. I'm gonna see if I can. Yeah, it says something about TDEE, BMR, and BMI. I'm not sure if you can see that. Oh. I'm going to show you what the app looks like now. So the app is this little small thing right there. Looks like that. It says TDEE. I know it's backwards. Okay. You can screenshot of that. Look for that on the Google Play Store or on your iPhone store, and that'll give you what I just gave you. Okay. So you figure out the number of calories you're taking in. You figure out what your calorie deficit is. Did you all know that you have 420,000 calories to burn? Most people didn't know that they had that many calories to burn. And to do that, you're going to do it over a year. Anything faster than that is a little unsafe. You really need to be supervised because I say too much of anything is a problem. So I appreciate it. I will see you next week. And y'all stay strong and get out there and exercise and eat right. Take care. Bye-bye.